Welcome to part 2 of the story. If you missed part 1, the link is in the description below. Claudia was saved just in time. The guards of her household rushed in before the situation could turn worse, quickly restraining the man who had been disturbing her. Nearby, the crown prince arrived moments too late. His hand instinctively moved toward his sword, but the danger had already been neutralized. The guards had taken control, escorting the intruder away without hesitation. Watching from a distance, Irene felt a quiet tension settle in her chest. She hoped he would forget about her entirely and continue forward, living peacefully with Claudia by his side, just as the original story intended. The next day, before dawn could fully break, Irene attempted to leave the estate unnoticed. She moved carefully, but Felix appeared. Claudia's brother stopped her in her tracks, his sharp gaze immediately questioning where she was heading at such an hour. Irene calmly explained that she was going to meet a friend. His eyes narrowed as he coldly asked whether that friend was a boy. When Irene denied it, the tension vanished instantly. His face brightened, the stern look melting into an innocent, almost boyish smile. Satisfied, he allowed her to leave without further questions. Outside the estate, Irene met her friend, and for a brief moment, everything felt warm and familiar. They spoke comfortably, reminiscing like they used to, as if the weight of fate and the future had loosened its grip on her heart. Soon after, preparations for the upcoming ball began. Claudia buzzed with excitement, who could barely contain her enthusiasm. She eagerly pulled Irene from one dress to another, insisting she try every gown that caught her eye. Fabrics shimmered, colors changed, and Claudia's joy filled the room. Then the night of the ball finally came. When the carriage arrived at the palace, Claudia and Felix were the first to step down. The bright lights of the mansion reflected off their formal attire. With warm smiles, they raised their hands for Irene, silently urging her to come out without hesitation. Once she joined them, the three entered the palace side by side. Sensing Irene's tension, Claudia gently told her not to mind the gazes surrounding them. Felix followed, calmly reminding her that people would stare no matter what, and that she should simply enjoy the night. Their reassurance eased her heart slightly as they moved deeper into the grand hall. As the evening progressed, she returned to her room. Fatigue weighed heavily on her shoulders. Just as she let her guard down, she noticed someone else inside the room. A man stood there, smiling shamelessly, declaring that he had fallen in love with her at first sight. Startled, Irene questioned whether he had entered the wrong room and firmly rejected him. However, the man refused to back away. He continued insisting, his smile growing unpleasant, until he suddenly grabbed her wrist. In that instant, Irene acted without hesitation. Using all her strength, she struck him between the legs. The man opened his mouth in pain, unable to even cry out. Irene did not wait to see what happened next. She turned and ran, putting as much distance between them as possible. As she rushed through the corridor, she collided with someone. When she looked up, she realized it was Felix. Instead of anger or concern, he wore an amused smile. He casually praised her for handling the situation well, remarking that if he had been in her place, he would have dealt with it far more brutally, briefly describing what he would have done instead. Then, as if nothing alarming had occurred, Felix invited her to join him and Claudia for tea. Grateful for the change of pace and the safety of familiar company, Irene willingly accepted, following him with a steadier heart as the night continued. The following day, they attended the opening ceremony of the National Foundation Festival. From the very beginning, the event felt exhausting. At the very end of the ceremony, a large-scale magic simulation was unveiled. Light and flowing mana filled the space, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Irene watched in awe, completely absorbed by the display. Beside her, however, Claudia was barely conscious. Her eyes drooped, and she failed to notice the magic unfolding before her. Seeing this, Felix quietly lifted his sister into his arms. Claudia was already asleep, resting against him without resistance. Without drawing attention, he carried her back to the palace where she was staying, leaving Irene behind to follow later. That was when Irene was suddenly approached by her father. His expression was serious, his tone firm, as he informed her that her marriage had already been decided. The words struck her like a blow. Shock flooded her mind, and she immediately got upset, unable to accept such a decision being made without her consent. When Claudia and Felix returned and heard the news, the atmosphere changed instantly. Claudia reacted first. Anger overtook her reason, and she began muttering threats toward the unknown fiancé, imagining all the ways she could make his life miserable if he dared to approach Irene. Felix, however, remained calm. He listened, his expression relaxed, almost indifferent. When questioned about his thoughts, he responded casually. He suggested that if the Count were to take a boat one day, an unfortunate accident could occur, and a dead body might be thrown into the sea, conveniently resolving the issue. Both Irene and Claudia froze in shock, and Irene said she had a better idea. Another ball was held not long after, and once again, the noble hall was filled with music, whispers, and watchful eyes. As Irene stood among the guests, she was suddenly approached by Erica, the woman known as the villainess of the story. With a polite smile that hid sharp intentions, Erica invited Irene to stay by her side. Before Irene could respond, Claudia stepped in without hesitation. She firmly declared that Irene belonged with her, and made it clear she would not allow Erica to take her anywhere. The interruption was so direct that Erica had no room to argue. Forced to withdraw, unable to challenge Claudia openly. The following day, Irene spent her time resting on a carousel, enjoying the rare moment of calm. That peace was interrupted when Felix appeared before her, dressed in a robe rather than his usual attire. Curious, Irene questioned his appearance. Felix explained that Duke Remberg had requested to meet her. He added that the Duke was a dangerous man, which was why he intended to accompany her personally. As Irene jumped down from the carousel, Felix suddenly reached out and caught her. The movement brought them close, their faces only inches apart, eyes locked in a brief, silent stare. Without hesitation, he carried her and led the way, and the two left together. When they arrived at the meeting place, Duke Remberg was already there, calmly smoking. The air was thick and heavy with smoke, and Irene soon began to cough. Felix, as a magician, he gathered the smoke with controlled precision. Fresh air filled the space, easing Irene's breathing and revealing a quiet gentleness in his actions. Once they were seated, Irene spoke first. She firmly asked the Duke to leave Claudia alone, stating that his obsession with Felix's sister needed to end. She demanded that he stop pursuing her. The Duke responded coldly, declaring that he had no intention of giving up. His fixation remained unshaken. At that moment, Felix spoke. His voice was resolute as he stated that it did not matter who the man was. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Turning slightly toward Irene, he told her that it was time for them to go. Before they could leave the room, Duke Remberg spoke again. His voice addressed Irene directly. He remarked that not long ago, her eyes had been steady and unafraid. Now, however, they are filled with hostility, even hatred, and calmly questioned what had changed. Watching her with unsettling interest, a sudden thunderbolt tore through the space beside the Duke, striking dangerously close to his right side. The blast served as a clear warning rather than an attack. Felix stood firm. His presence was cold and controlled as he demanded that the Duke stop and let Irene go. Unshaken, Duke Remberg merely smiled. He confidently stated that his wealth far surpassed that of Felix and Claudia's family. Irene stated with certainty that even if Felix and Claudia were to lose everything, she would remain by their side. The Duke's smile deepened. He warned her calmly that she would come to regret such a decision. Irene met that threat with unwavering conviction. She declared that she would never regret it. Never. Not now, and not in the future. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed this manhwa. Please subscribe for more stories, and see you in the